Hello, my name is Charlie and I've come to see Max Grew of Intrepid Camera. There's a reason I've come here, and it is this. Years ago, in 1978, hello.
Hi Charlie, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Max. Years ago, I hope you'll be intrigued by this story. I went to have a 6.5, 8.5 whole plate camera made by Gandolfi.
Oh wow.
And I went to meet Fred.
Yeah.
And he laid out a table much like this with the tabloid newspapers. And I thought, what am I going to see? And he reached behind him and he took out my 6.5, 8.5 whole plate and put it there. And he then said very sweetly, you won't just have it as an objet d'art, will you? Please use it. And so when I heard about you, I thought I want to come and kind of relive that experience. Because I strongly believe that there's a certain degree of intimate engagement that you make with the landscape when using a large format camera that you do not experience with digital or any other camera. What I can't do is explain why. But you obviously know that, but I've got lots of questions to ask you. And I think the first one, Max, is what on earth made you start this extraordinary business, this wonderful business? How did it all begin?
It started at university as a project to build a camera that kind of touches on what you said, that I could go out and use, would sort of slow me down. And I realised that a lot of the cameras that are available, large format cameras, are very expensive, quite prohibitive for a student, as I was at the time, to get into. So I ended up sort of designing and building one myself, just a simple thing. It wasn't, particularly amazing. And then that sort of morphed itself into a dissertation project for a product design degree that I was doing at the time. And then after that, a few people said, oh, could you build me one? And then we went to crowdfunding, and before I knew it, a business had started.
That's absolutely marvellous. So you've compressed the story, I think, into quite a little nugget. But along the way, you had an interesting dilemma, I suppose, which was in the face of a tidal wave of digital, where no one would even imagine that taking one of these large format cameras out. How did you manage to persuade people that using these is a very special experience, almost over and above the experience of photography? It's a really wonderful thing to be doing, using a large format.
I think what people sort of photographers were sort of almost realising it themselves, that sort of experience of shooting a few thousand pictures and then getting it on the computer, that people were spending a lot more time on the computer to get their image than they were using the camera. And because you have to do everything in camera, large format, you have to get every sort of setting you can just perfect, otherwise you won't get the shot. And more often than not, you don't get the shot, but you thoroughly enjoyed the experience of going out and being sort of deeply involved with the environment you're in. I think it was quite easy to get that message across to photographers, and it sort of twigs something inside you. Think, oh, actually, that's why I got into photography originally. That sort of experience, not so much to sit in front of the computer. So once we sort of started to get that message across, I think it just built and snowballed, which was fantastic.
But the other thing is there's no electronics, and I think with digital, although we all use it, and it's what we have to use in many cases, but the fact that there are no electronics, there's no barrier between the image passing through the lens, going through the bellows, and then this indescribable experience, especially with 10 by 8 inches, of this image, like going to the movies. I mean, there it is, writ big in front of you.
It really is.
And then that whole business of engaging with your surroundings is so much more profound. And I think most of my chums would agree. And over goes the dark cloth, and you get down to business, and you're right in the zone.
It's a really sort of meditative experience.
Very contemplative.
It's really, I mean, some of my best photography trips, I've ended up taking no pictures, but it was still a large format photography trip because you're spending all that time composing and sort of waiting for the right light. And if it doesn't happen, it's no great loss because you weren't there. You weren't just spending all your time being sort of trigger happy and thinking about how you could edit that to get what you want.
I agree. It's the pursuit.
It's a pursuit.
And funnily enough, when people say to me, "Did you get any photographs?" and I say no. Oh, what a shame. No, all right.
Yeah, it's no problem.
The experience was absolutely wonderful. But when you first started the business and you knew that there was going to be a demand, Where did you detect that demand was going to come from? Was it sort of domestic market, UK? Did you immediately push out to try and make sales overseas?
So we sort of, initially I assumed it would be in the UK and sort of close European countries. And then suddenly, without me sort of putting any effort in, the demand was almost entirely in the US. And still to this day, we've been going for nearly 5 years. The US is, that's 60 to 70% of our customers.
You would never have jumped that.
No, and I think there's a few things. It's because I think that a lot of the supporting industry for film still exists in the US more so than Europe, although it's coming back, and particularly in the UK, there's places to print and develop your pictures are sort of opening up, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And also there's sort of a big culture of the landscape photographer in the national parks, and they've got the tradition of Ansel Adams, and then you've got new people on YouTube like Ben Horn who are sort of promoting it. Yeah. And I think there's just a bit more of a culture of it over there that just caught on a little bit quicker, and it's sort of catching up and is quite present in Europe as well.
Yes. Do you think that culture has potentially got growth here in the UK, or do you think you've reached the ceiling?
No, the UK's grown really quickly over the last sort of 2.5 years, and is now the second biggest from basically being non-existent. Is now the second biggest buyer of them.
Right.
So yeah, the UK is definitely growing. I think people. Yeah, the UK's got a lot of beautiful landscape to offer, and I think this is a great way of going and discovering it.
Yes, it has. And the other thing I wanted to say is when the person acquires one of your beautiful cameras, they're familiar obviously with the source of the product. So where do they get the 10.8 film? They get their 5.4. And then do they then, I mean, are Cibachromes still possible where you put a 10.8, I remember a 10.8 enlarger, cold cathode, an Omega. But I'm just thinking, I suppose ultimately they're trying to get scanned.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about is not so much high res, super zillion mega doodles as I call them. What we're actually talking about is this is the camera to have a full-on, very profound photography experience.
Yeah.
The end product will end up possibly as a digital file. And that you're not selling, this has got 100 megapixels. That's not what you're into at all, is it?
No, it's not. And we also try and, I think a lot of camera companies get a bit affixed on selling the gear rather than what photography actually is a lot more than the gear, and that's something we're always quite conscious of.
Yes.
But it's interesting you mentioned that a lot of people would scan it, because we're trying to sort of close the loop between getting the physical negative and also having a physical print. So we've got a attachment that goes on the back of the 4.5, which is an enlarger, so you can actually print your negatives directly from the camera. You just project back through the lens.
Oh, marvellous.
So that sort of gives people an easy way to make prints as well as digitally scan, which is quite a nice way to do it.
Oh, a very nice way to do it. And I remember working for Brian Duffy and some fairly high-end photographers, and they had a 10.8 Polaroid.
Yeah.
And then they'd nip down to the basement and do a 10.8 Polaroid, they'd process it and everything. And that was really quite interesting. But presumably, if somebody wanted to do a Polaroid, they could. You can get 5.4 Polaroid backs, can't you?
5.4 Polaroid backs, and you can get 10.8 Polaroid film is still made.
You still can?
Yeah, it's made by the Impossible Project, who actually just bought the Polaroid name. So now it's Polaroid again.
Right. Out of Austria, is it?
I think so.
Out of Austria.
Enschede, I think.
Right. So once somebody's left you and they've got their camera and they're really excited and over the moon about it, it's quite straightforward for them to go and get the products they need. They can get their film, and they know the labs who'll process. There's still a lot of E6 around, isn't there?
Yep, E6 is easier to
do. And
do.
Ilford, of course, still make.
Going strong.
Good for Ilford. They've really held on, haven't they?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, and Kodak are bringing out Ektachrome in sheet film again. So yeah, there's even new films being produced.
Oh, marvellous.
Which is great.
It is, because what I'm appreciating as we're talking is that this resurgence is almost as a kind of a response to this, external hard drives full of unedited stuff that we're all guilty of having. And now we're going all the way back to, look, hold on a minute, this is what photography used to be for the photographer. And you can find it again, and you can really engage with it. Yeah. And I think that's your timing is absolutely bang on.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of I guess the timing of it was a coincidence of me wanting to do it. So I guess it also loops around really, Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question you won't like. How often do you get time to go out and do photography with one of your cameras?
Not for years. No, we did as a group, the whole workshop went out and used one, I think that was sort of That must be getting on a year ago now.
Really?
We just released a new model, so we need to go out and doing the same again.
Right.
But the last time, I did get a little chance. I was in Vietnam a few months ago.
Oh, well, you took a 5.4.
Yeah.
And as far as the design is concerned, did Fred Gandolfi, who of course you knew, and I told you that story, was there any influence from any camera maker that you thought, yep, I'm going to follow this, or is it a completely unique design in terms of the detail?
I'd love to say we took influence from the Gandolfi brothers, but I don't think there's really any parallels between our manufacturing methods. They were very much making handmade, bespoke items of the high ends that were very much they'd work with the end user, whereas we do sort of we still work with the end user a lot to produce the camera, and a lot of the design is influenced by them, but we produce in much higher quantities. So we can't unfortunately spend a day or two doing the French polish on each individual part.
That's marvellous. I remember when I went to see him, he told me in his lovely accent, every screw is finished at exactly the same angle. Yeah. And when I saw yours, which are Phillips, I suppose, or similar, it gets away. Do you know what? Would you be kind enough to give me a tour? Around the workshop? You've got a team of 9 people.
Yeah, I think most are in today.
Are they? And they're all, we hopefully meet some of that, but they've all got their individual tasks.
Yeah.
And are you the quality control man?
James is the quality control man. Yeah.
Right.
You're right, yeah.
So, but essentially, the business of making a camera, if I could ask you, if you were to say, right, let's put one together in one day, if you were to take all your bits that we're going to look at shortly, and somebody was saying, can you make me a camera now? I want to be able to see it put together, my own camera, then I want to buy. Could you do that in half a day or a day?
Yeah, if the wood parts were already cut out and varnished.
Ready to go?
Certainly do that,
Right. So he could walk away, he or she could come in, more women photographers now than ever, so he could come in the morning and walk away with their camera in the end of the day and enjoy Brighton while they're waiting.
Yes, they could,
Brilliant. Can we look around?
Yes, let's do it. And the best place to start would be in here, where all the wood gets cut out.
Let's go. All right. Thank you.
So the first thing we do is we take these sort of sheets of raw material just behind you, which is birch ply or aluminium or sort of a fiberglass board as well. And that all comes into here where it's cut up into little pieces. So this one's just run without the extraction on, as you can see.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. But that's cutting out little parts like these. So it starts as the full sheets of birch plywood, and then instead of doing it in sort of several layers, we tend to do just one chunk on one operation. It saves a lot of work for the people to do afterwards in terms of sanding and gluing and things like that.
So all wood comes from here, and all the wood you need comes from here. So that's about half a dozen different pieces or more.
Yeah, about 10 to 12 pieces. So yeah, and we try and get the machines to do as much of the work as possible, obviously.
How many cameras do you manufacture in 1 week?
So in a week we're doing, at the minute, I mean, it does vary, and we do it particularly depending on demand, but at the minute we're doing, for 4.5s, we're doing around 120 a month. So what's that, 30 a week?
120 a month.
This rather grubby looking machine, which is due for a clean out today, which is why it looks so messy, is the glass grinding machine. So this bowl on the top here sort of shakes and vibrates. Oh. And in there's a grinding compound, and underneath these squares, which are heavy weights, there's the sheet of glass. And it grinds one side flat and grounds, so you can focus on. And the other side has like a foam cushion on top to stop it getting scratched.
And what I'm enjoying hearing you say is that every single component here, you could easily have bought the glass in, presumably, but you said, no, I want that to be something that we do.
We do a lot of stuff ourselves, and what was important was we've changed the way a lot of these things can be made, so you don't have to rely on industries that are declining to make parts for your products. We've sort of created new ways to make it, and trying to make the whole sort of ecosystem of building large format cameras a bit more sustainable. So it's not the main thing with film photography is you read these stories about how things are no longer being done, no longer being made, and we didn't want to be part of that, so it's great to be coming up with new ways of doing things, being able to do it in-house. So once all the glass is ground and the various parts are cut out, they come through here, which is
and this is the stage as if I am a piece of...
Exactly, you are currently a piece of camera.
I'm a piece of camera, and I'm going now into what department?
So this is sort of the hand finishing department, I'd say. So you've got your quite traditional tools like drill presses. This one does threading and belt sander, and a lot of the time people are sitting here sanding the wood by hand. So it comes in onto these shelves. That's it, straight off the machine, and it gets hand sanded and varnished. And then after it's varnished, it goes up here, And this is sort of the finished part. You can
Oh,
see
yes,
how
yes.
smooth
Can I
and nice
hold
that
that?
is, yeah.
That's absolutely
Yeah, they're
lovely.
very strong.
Yeah.
Birch plywood is sort of an engineering grade material. Unfortunately, plywood, as I was saying earlier, our main market's the US, and the word plywood means something very different in the US.
Oh,
It's
does it?
associated with this sort of inferior building product that's a bit rubbish.
Have you managed to re-educate me?
We're trying to rebrand plywood because the plywood we get in Europe is a very high-end, much nicer product. This is the parts get varnished.
Yeah.
We use like a environmentally friendly wax oil, which is
Yes.
a really nice thing to do. You don't have to wear gloves, you don't have to wear a mask. It's a really nice product to use.
And it impregnates into the wood.
Exactly, and
So there's
seals it
no
completely.
varnish as such, no.
It's not
Finally.
varnish as such. It's more of a the oil impregnates and the wax coats the top, and it stops the it stops the wood warping or changing, and then they will dry up here. So this is some bases of the 4x5 that slides in and out.
Yeah. So we've left that, and now we're going
So now you've got
toward
all your-
construction.
Yeah, so now you've got all your finished parts. They come over here to be assembled together into cameras.
Right.
So we've got Hugo here is working on and he's doing something really fiddly as I come over. Is working on
Hello, Hugo.
on bases for the.
I actually can't stop the boat.
You can't. You crack on. You crack on.
Why is it fiddly? I mean, I would have thought
So he's
everything's
using
fiddly,
so the bit he's doing at the minute is using a glue that has a relatively short drying time, so he has to get everything to position before the
Right.
glue sets.
Right.
If not, then the whole part is a bit of a write-off and it's a bit of a
Yes.
faff to get it all
see,
working.
yes.
So these are the bases for the 8x10. So you've got
Right.
this part here, which has got, so would have come off the shelves there. And
Yeah.
It's got the linear guides installed. These tape just hold the blocks in place
Yes.
to stop them sliding off into
Yes.
the distance. And then you've got this bit on the back here holds the threaded rod, which it slides in and out of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on top here you've got the inserts that the front standard screws into.
Right. Right. One of the questions I should have asked you earlier, Max, is out of 10.8 and 5.4, do you find that some people think, gosh, I'm jumping into the deep end if I get a 10.8. Maybe I'll start with 5x4 and that'll be my infancy, as it were, infancy. So do I then go on to a 10.8, or do some people just say, I'm going to get a 10.8 and get right in there? Which is the most popular?
So the 4.5 is definitely the most popular. It's a similar learning curve on both. It's just a little bit harder.
Yes.
If you make a mistake, it's a lot more expensive. Because the film's 4 times the price.
But the rate of appreciation and final purchase is very much toward the 5.4, is it?
Yes, we sell about
80% 5.4.
Yeah, we sell about 4 5.4 cameras for every 10.
So where are we going now?
Right, so we'll leave Hugo to his work and stop bothering him.
Hugo and his glue. So now we're at bellows gluing.
Yes.
What's the process behind that? Fairly straightforward?
It's straightforward in a sense, but you have to get every single bit perfect, otherwise the bellows don't go on quite right. And Rocco is a bit of a pro at doing this. So the minute he's just sticking them onto the front of some 8x10 front standards.
Right.
So you sort of basically works with gluing the corners down to create a frame, and then you put the glue on the front standard and on the bellows. You wait for it to dry for the correct amount of time, and then you line it up perfectly, press firmly, and then you stack them up and wait for them to dry. But it is one of the more fiddly parts of the assembly process. But as we've seen as we go around, everything is very hands-on and handmade. So you couldn't really automate this kind of thing.
No, you could not. And actually, it's the fact that it's handmade, and there isn't a soul, I don't think, when anybody buys anything. The moment you say this is handmade, with love and care, you immediately think, and they don't look manufactured. They just look so precise, which of course they have to be, because
exactly.
you can't have a millimetre out, can you?
No, well,
Not
it would
really.
be the difference between a sharp and a blurry image.
It absolutely would. You would
so
soon
probably
see a
spot
lot of returns. Right, so next stage, Max,
Next
what's
stage, so
that?
we've got Sam here's working on negative carriers for the enlarger, which I showed you earlier. So I think this was the done part. Yeah, so this is a 4x5 negative carrier.
Right.
This is fairly simple.
So I'm in front of my cold cathode in my case.
Yep, you've loaded
I've got my neg.
Yep, mounted in there. Clamp it shut, quick de-dust. And then it slides
Straight in.
Yep.
Oh, marvellous.
So you've got the same material that the hinges are for film holders.
Yes.
And then inside there's another bit of material there to keep the hinge, and then some locating pins to keep it all.
Marvellous. But does it follow that everybody who acquires one of your lovely cameras will also have a large format enlarger?
I think so. So we've launched our own version of the enlarger which clips on the back of the 4x5 camera and allows you to convert the camera into an enlarger. So we're hoping people will get into using that. We do see a lot of people printing, but there's also, particularly in London, there's a lot of places you can go and sort of rent a darkroom space.
Yes,
there is in Brighton as well.
Yes, and the US obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So I think most people probably print that way, which is why we thought there would be interest in having a very compact sort of adapter that can convert to larger.
That was a first, isn't it?
So it was done by Graflex in 1953. They had a patent for it, which has long expired, fortunately.
Yes,
so, so I can't claim that was an original idea, but it's very different the way we're doing it. But it's the whole concept is not original. No.
So really, it saves the user money.
Saves them money, and they can pack everything away into one box and pop it under the kitchen sink, and don't need a dark room. You just use your bathroom.
No, absolutely.
So we're hoping to start a generation of large format printers who are using their bathrooms and
that's
kitchens.
fantastic. So in a way, we've departed slightly from the camera, haven't we?
Yes, there's slightly different stuff going on over here.
So the next stage, we've done the bellows.
The next bit is James, the hitter. So James is the head of production and looks after the guys you just met.
Hello, James.
So James is currently making some black bellows. So James cuts out the sort of, he does the bellows in big batches.
Yes.
Cut out each individual part, put the ribs in.
Yes.
Press it all together.
Yes.
Fold it down, and then that's it.
And then that's it.
So we do all the bellows in-house, everything, the entire process is all done.
Gosh. You are making with your hands every single part of this camera.
We do try and keep as much in-house as possible.
Yeah.
Because you can get higher quality control. It keeps prices down, which we obviously pass on.
Yes.
The cameras.
Yes.
Affordable. And if you want to make sort of design tweaks based on customer feedback, it's not like turning a big shipping tanker around. You can be very agile and make decisions quickly.
Yes.
So it has a lot of advantages.
Yes. But we're not done yet, are we?
No, so there's a few more bits. Also, over this side of the building is where Naomi lives.
Naomi, hello Naomi.
Naomi does all of the all the branding, the content, customer service. Basically, anything you sort of see that makes Intrepid Camera look good and nice is done by Naomi.
Right.
And she's currently making a sort of
stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion.
But we're still not quite there, are we? We're nearly there. We now need to look at the finished thing.
Yes.
We've done a complete circle.
This is the end product. So here we've got the 10.8.
Yes.
And seeing as we're in the UK, I will call it the 5.4, but I get in the habit of calling it a 4.5 because of the US.
Yes.
So
yes.
So.
And your little, I see there's a little spirit level there, and there's one here. They're dinky little things.
They do make loading everything up a lot easier though.
Does any of your customers say they want a special thing on it? Do they want your? Is your branding anywhere? If somebody acquired, do they see Intrepid Camera?
It's on the bottom.
Written in it. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Very good. Very, very good.
We do get a few special requests, and unfortunately we can't really. Often we can't cater to them because we build in batches.
Pink bellows or something.
So the way we keep it affordable is that it's just easier to keep things sort of similar. Then we can build in big batches rather than pulling one off and doing a one-off special. Put the price up massively.
Yes. Have the mighty B&H in New York got to know about you yet?
I went in, and no, they didn't know who we were.
They didn't know.
They didn't know who we were.
They will.
Hopefully one day.
Yeah, but if they were to, and suddenly your quantities had to go up, there was a tidal wave of demand.
Yeah.
Would you almost not feel you want to be able to handle that?
We'd obviously be happy to grow more and things are growing quickly, but I wouldn't want anything to change sort of the atmosphere of how we all work and anything like that.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Maybe it's inevitable, I don't know. But
well, I think you're what's known as a huge success story.
Thank you very much.
And it's really marvellous, and you've maintained quality, and you, as I said a little earlier, you've delivered the opportunity to people to enjoy the wonders of large format photography, which hitherto they haven't really been able to.
Yeah, there hasn't really. I think a lot of the sort of traditional manufacturers who are still going only sort of really offer high-end products, which is fantastic if you have the money to spend. But if you don't, it's nice to know that you can sort of consider this an option.
Yes. So if somebody does buy one and they think, I really need to be able, I'm a real novice, I'd really like to know how to use this.
Yeah.
Does the wonderful Intrepid Camera offer workshops? Is that something you might consider?
We would love to, and we've been doing a bit of work on more ways to integrate with our customers. So we've got ways of doing workshops, and we're going to do some more tutorial videos, and also host some talks in our workshop about sort of the joys of shooting on film and how you can sort of be a professional photographer and use film and actually work solely with film and make money. Hopefully people realise that we're not just one person in the garage.
No, definitely not. Well done. Thank you very much.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Really enjoyed it. Really did. Well, there's the story behind large format camera manufacturing, but manufacturing is not the right word. It's clearly done with love and care. And that was a great honour to meet Max and his team.